Mustang Sally. Guess you better slow your Mustang down. Oh, Lord. What I said now. Mustang.
Muscle Shoals, that was the hot spot.
We were noted for the black music we cut, and people loved what we did.
All kind of people were coming to make records in Muscle Shoals. Why? Because of the Muscle Shoals sound.
Oh, I guess I have to put your flat feet on the ground. What I said now.
So the Muscle Shoals sound is basically funk, R&B, a big round with a lot of bottom, a lot of bass. We call it dirt and soul.
Here was these guys playing on Wilson Pickett records. Mustang Saddle, Land of a Thousand Dances, When a Man Loves a Woman, all this stuff, right? And we were all white boys. One thing you got to realize, we come out of that period out of the 50s and 60s there when all that trouble was going on in Selma, Little Rock, Jackson, Mississippi, Oxford, Mississippi, and Birmingham, Alabama.
There was no friction or problem with blacks and whites playing together in the studio. In fact, we never thought of
I need somebody to help me say it one time.
it. Wayne Allman came to Muscle Shoals to meet with me and wanted to be a session picker.
He was a freak at that time around here because we were all wearing our Weegians and our khaki pants.
I said, I don't have need for a session player. He said, well, do you mind if I stick around anyhow? I'll just pitch my pup tent out on the parking lot, and I'll just hang around.
And I had never really, truly met a free spirit person until I met him.
We were recording Wilson Pickett, and he just showed up.
Tom Dow was a great engineer from Atlantic, and Rick did a joint production on this.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Back then, it was a little touchy for a black guy to go out with, say, 5 or 6 white guys to eat. And Dwayne was in a precarious situation. He had long hair. And people had long hair that went out with us, got worse looks than the black guys. And so the two of them stayed back, and that's when Dwayne talked him into doing Hey Jude.
He started playing the guitar.
Hey, Jude, don't make it bad.
Pickett started working with him on the guitar, and it started sounding better and better, and so Pickett got enthused and started getting into it more.
I don't have to tell you how much fun we had on this.
We started running the tune down, and Dwayne had this little guitar riff.
Starting on the vamp, we hit an incredible groove.
Make it better.
Here we go. Get ready, Allman Brothers.
It was the record, I mean, the little lick.
And that particular part that Dwayne played changed music. It changed music to the point that Southern rock was introduced.
When I sent Wexler the record of Hey Jude on Wilson Pickett, he called me back on the phone with his heavy New York Jewish accent. He said, Rick, a stroke of genius. Of course, it was Dwayne's idea, but I took credit for it. I told Phil Walden about it.
He said, I want to play you the new Wilson Pickett session.
Phil Walden owned Capricorn with Atlantic. Phil started out as a manager in a booking agency that he ran out of Macon, Georgia.
I said, wow, who's that guitar player? Long-haired hippie boy. He sounds fabulous. He's always said he's unbelievable. This guy's unbelievable. And I said, well, I'm going to Alabama. I'm going to sign him. I'm going to put a band together.
Phil Walden wanted me to go down to Muscle Shoals to meet with Dwayne. He said, you got to hear this white boy down there. Said he's a hippie man. Said you got to hear this guy play guitar. He wants to know if you'd play in the band with him. And I remember this friend of mine. He said, if you want to make money, he said, go play with them white boys. My little light bulb went off my head. Bing. Oh, make some money, huh? So what the hell? I walked over to this guy and I said, hey, man, are you Sky Man? Because Wilson Pickett gave him this name, Skyman, because he used to play that bottle, and he played so high on the guitar, making all those birds kind of sounds. You're J. Johnny Johnson. I said, yep. From that day on, it was what it was.
Dwayne came to me. He said, I need to ride around and jam with some people and play and see who's out there and see who thinks like I think and come up with something.
Dwayne was going to take Barry Oakley out of our band. And so it was going to be J-Mo and Barry Oakley and Dwayne. Dwayne would be sitting in with us a lot, and he and I were making this magic, just right off the cuff. So they came to me and said, why don't you join our band? And I said, well, okay.
There's a knock at my door, and it's Dwayne and J-Mo. And then Dwayne came inside there for 5 minutes, got up and walked out and left J-Mo sitting there. And he's just sitting there like this, giant muscles and a tank top on and his bear tooth claw thing around his neck. And I'm going, God damn, I'm militant. He's going to kill me. We've been 35 years, the best friend I have in the world.
So Truck showed up. And as soon as he got up with me and Dwayne and Barry and Jay, all of a sudden we're starting to see a band.
We started out this shuffle, and about 4 hours later, we stopped.
There was a lot of freedom and stuff in what we were doing.
I'd be crying one minute, chill bumps the next minute.
If we were in a direction that made sense, then everybody just kind of went along and supported it.
It was just magic. Dwayne walked to the door and said, okay, anybody in this room not going to play in my band, you got to fight your way out of here.
When we were in Muscle shows, Dwayne used to tell me, there ain't but one person that can sing in this band that I got in my head. He said, and that's my brother.
The phone rang. It was my brother, and he said, man, I got these guys together. I got tired of being in the studio. I need you to come back here, round up this whole thing, and send it somewhere.
About halfway through that rehearsal, Greg showed up.
And they started playing, and it just knocked me out.
Went back against the wall. He said, Jesus, what a band.
And he says, what's the matter? I said, man, I don't think I can cut this. And he goes in, you little punk.
He said, shut up, get behind your organ.
And I just snatched some lyrics, and I did my best to sing it my best.
Sometimes I feel like I'm dying.
We all piled into a Ford Econoline and went to Macon, Georgia, and moved up there.
We got chased out of Jacksonville finally by the law. Because we're having like 10,000 people show up these Sunday afternoon. I'm sorry, but there was some drug dealing going on, too, it was innocent, some acid and some pot.
He finally called and he says, we got it together. Fixed us up with a place to live in Macon, and we headed that way.
Moved into a two-room apartment we call the Hippie Crash Pad.
And one had 12 mattresses in it, and the other one had all our gear in it.
Only furniture in it was a Coke machine full of beer.
And we would get up in the morning, we'd have a little breakfast, we would take some mushrooms. We started playing, next thing you know, it would be dark. We did this for about 6 straight weeks.
They were the first long hairs. Anybody had ever seen them make it. Sometimes they would sit out in the front and be playing guitars and whatnot, and cars would literally screech to a stop, and people would break their necks looking and staring at them.
One Sunday, we just decided to go to Atlanta and find a part and just set up and start playing. An hour or two, there's 2,000 or 3,000 kids standing around, and you know, all the damn hippies were hanging out that week, and the underground newspaper called The Great Speckled Bird had discovered the new band of the revolution.
The South, I mean, that kind of thing wasn't happening here. But as we traveled around, you know, everybody else started getting it, except the record companies.
The people at Atlantic were telling him, you know, hey, you got a white band from the South just standing there playing? What are you, crazy? So get that kid out behind the organ, put some velvet pants on him, stick a salami down his pants, and let him jump around like Robert Plant. Maybe you got a chance. And Phil said, no, I believe in these guys. And they said, well, then you pay for it.
I mortgaged everything for this thing. I believed in it that much. They never would have spent the money that I spent over that next 2 years. I had several $100,000 in it. We're talking about late 60s, early 70s money. That's like millions of dollars today. And it was unheard of.
We went up and Adrian Barber engineered and produced the first record. Phil Walden had a thermometer on the back of his door.
To fill up the bottom would be like, I don't know, 100,000 or something like that. And then it went, you know, 200, 300, 400, 500,000.
He just thought, you know, this music was so good that everybody would immediately figure that out, and it was just going to go through the roof.
The red part ended up at 32,000, so it was not a whole lot of red in the thermometer. It was recommended by Atlantic after the first album that we break the band up because nothing was ever going to emerge from the South.
By this time, we were making a little money, and so we rented this little farm. So there was so much traffic in and out of there, you know, with friends and musicians and everything. We started laughably calling it Idlewild South after Idlewild Airport in New York.
We were rehearsing for Idlewild South, and Tom's out front saying, who the hell is that? And Phil said, that's the Allman Brothers. He said, get them out of there and get them in the studio right now. They're ready. They are ready to go. We need to get the Criteria in Miami, so that's what we did.
Idlewild South kind of bit the dirt. And we didn't really get discouraged.
Disappointed, but not disheartened by the whole thing because there were enough of the right people that were attracted to this band.
We were down there playing. Tommy Dowd was there recording a band called Derek and the Dominoes. My brother asked Dad if it was all right if maybe he came down and just watched for a little while. And he laughed and says, watch, hell, come on down and play. We went down there to the studio. They played us Layla, but it didn't have the...
Layla was Tom Dowd knowing that Eric needed some help. They were floundering around down there with all this music, but they had no spark. In walks Duane Allman, and he set fire to those guys.
And Eric Clapton was calling him the greatest guitar player in the world, and he was the guy. It was just all about brilliant, tasty playing. Dwayne said, you know, we need the freedom of a live album, and that'll give people that don't see us in person an opportunity to really hear what the Allman Brothers are all about. It was a brilliant idea. It a double LP. Jerry Wexler said, you know, this is nonsense. Said, you know, you got cuts on this thing 25 minutes long. You've got to edit this thing, cut it down to a single album, and otherwise we're not going to put it out. And I said, now let me tell you the other part of this thing. I said, you know, our image is that this is the people's band. Music is for the people, and therefore we want to make this specially priced. He said, specially priced? What do you mean? I said, we want to sell it for $6.98. He said, you are crazy. When that album came out, it was a massive, massive hit.
There are not many critics that wouldn't rank that as one of the best live albums in the canon.
This was really an expression of their region, of their environment, their culture. For the first time in rock, Southern guys were making the music and living in the South.
We had a little time off from the road. And I was in a nightclub somewhere jamming.
This guy walked over and said, we have an emergency phone call for you at the telephone station. And it was Carolyn. And she said, I've got some bad news for you. Dwayne was in an accident on his motorcycle, and they had him in surgery for several hours. And they would bring him around partially. But he has died. He is dead now.
I mean, the Dwayne Allman death was so unexpected. You know, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like losing your brother or your sister.
He always looked out for me, and believe me, I felt it when he died. You know, I felt it like my crutch broke. You know, and that further pisses you off at yourself, and it further makes you look like just some kind of weakling. And you don't realize how much you're leaning on people until they die. Death is just so final. I weighed out at about 152 pounds, 6'1.5". Boy, I had to tie knots in my legs to make knees. I was in pretty bad shape. We all were.
We kind of all just stumbled around in the dark there for a while.
We were going to take 6 months off and just kind of regroup, but after about 6 weeks, we started going nuts.
All we knew is we needed to get back to work, or we were going to go crazy, or we were just going to start taking a bunch of dope until we died.
They went out and they played Hofstra, I believe, on Long Island the first night. they had put Dwayne's guitar on a stand out there, and there was a spotlight on his place, and so they totally destroyed the place.
You know, all our friends was encouraging us, you know, you guys just have a great band, and of course Atlantic Records didn't think so. They let us go. Son of a bitch.
I don't ever remember anybody doubting whether they would go on or not.
We got about 3/4 of the way through the album. That's when we recorded Melissa.
Melissa was my brother's favorite song that I'd ever written.
Sweet Melissa.
And initially the album was called Eat a Peach for Peace, and then we dropped the for peace.
And if you look on the record, it still says dedicated to a brother, and then it'll say Eat a Peach, and then for peace. He named the thing because it was during Vietnam, right?
Dwayne was being interviewed. He was asked, "What are you doing for the revolution?" Dwayne said, "Revolution?" He said, "Man, there ain't no revolution. It's all evolution. Times are changing. That's what it's all about." And he said, "I tell you what I do for peace." You can't print this probably. He says, I eat a peach for peace. Two-legged Georgia kind.
Warner Brothers picked us up, and we had the biggest record we ever had.
Sunday morning, bells are ringing everywhere. I want to Carolina. One day I'll be there. Of my blue sky, of my sunny day. Lord, you know what makes me high when you turn your love my way. Turn your love my way.
That was the same year that I cut Laid Back, my first solo record.
You see the fact is more less. You're gambling with your own happiness.
Got Johnny Sandlin and said, "Man, let's go cut this record."
Johnny called me and said, "Would you like to play on Greg's record?" Yeah, I was unemployed at the time.
So I told the other guys in the band about it. I said, "You know, there's this guy down here that really plays his piano." I went in there one night to record, and I said, "Hey, man, how would you like to come with the Allman Brothers?" He'd just taken a big drink of coffee. I thought he was going to choke on it.
We're still kind of finishing Greg's record and then starting a new record with the Allmans. And we had gotten a week into the sessions when Barry Oakley had his untimely, unfortunate accident.
The only thing that helped us with that is we could kind of see it coming because Oakley just couldn't get over losing his buddy. And so we kind of see Oakley going downhill with the, you know, just grief and booze and drugs.
By this point, I'm thinking, oh God, I better make my will because I'm going to be next.
By that time, we were so damn tough. We just said, you know, there's so many people that want to see us play, you know. Let's keep going.
We sat down, we had some meetings, and we discussed bass players.
Lamar was the first person that I suggested, and Lamar and I grew up together.
So we carried on with Lamar, and we finished the record, and then prepared to go out on tour.
Some particular critic was doing an article on the Allman Brothers, and it said Phil Walden should be credited for being very clever in having an integrated band from the South. I said, you know what? There are 2 black guys in that band. I never thought about it.
We also happened to become the #1 band in the country. We were drawing more people to concerts than any other band in the U.S. We were selling more albums.
Brothers and Sisters, that album went to #1 the first week of release. It was unbelievable. But that had Rambling Man on it.
Thought I was born a rambling man, trying to make a living and doing the best I can. And when it's time for leaving, I hope you'll understand that I was born a rambling man.
I got an old buddy down here, this old cowboy, and he would say, "Well, Dookie, how you doing? Playing your music and doing the best you can, I guess," you know, an old cowboy. And I always, that line stuck in my head. We're at the end of the album, and they said, "We need one more song." So I said, "Well, I got this song." I said, "I think it's too country. I was going to, you know, pitch it in Nashville."
And then all of a sudden, it's a smash hit. And now all of a sudden, that's Southern rock.
We were riding home.
Having a good time down on the bayou, Lord. And them Delta women think the world of me. I was born a rambling man.
Have a Saturday night in Macon on the turntable in your own living room with the Allman Brothers Band, Brothers and Sisters, and the Marshall Tucker Band. Albums and tapes on Capricorn. Make every night Saturday night with Capricorn Records.
We were proud of the fact that we had this little record company and we're doing really well from Macon, Georgia.
They had all the racial crap that went on and bad feelings, and suddenly here's some music, something positive, something good, and it's something that Southerners could be proud of.
We got to befriend Jimmy Carter, and he came to see us because he thought we were doing a lot for the state.
So we all thought, wow, this is cool. Our governor is coming down here to hear us play.
Governor Jimmy Carter. I'm going to say 4 things.
When you're running for political office, where do you go? Do you go to your friends?
First of all, I'm running for president.
He said, "Well, I've decided that I'm going to run for president." And I said, "President of what?"
Secondly, I'm going to be elected.
We had been through the Nixon era.
The country needed somebody who would not lie.
Third, this is very important. I need your help. Will you help me?
He said, "We're going to be broke before our caucus unless we can raise some money." And he says, "Can you do some concerts?"
And fourth, I want to introduce to you my friends and your friends, the ones that are going to help me get elected along with you, the great Allman Brothers.
Millions of dollars, and then the government had to match that.
And it was all the so-called bad boys of Southern rock and roll.
Mr. Carter got their answer.
Jimmy Carter came along and announced that the days of segregation were over with. That was the first governor that had ever done that in Georgia.
At that time period, Jimmy Carter restored Georgia from the Dark Ages. When he asked us to help him out, we said sure, you know, because of who he was.
You are very interested in rock music.
Yes, I am. I'm not only interested in it from what it signifies in our society, but also I enjoy it. And in addition to that, have a close friendship with some of the performing groups and have been helped greatly by them during the campaign.
So it all started with a bunch of Southern rock and rollers helping a friend raise some money, but giving him credibility at the same time.
This was all leading up to a grand climax of Jimmy Carter getting elected president.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
He may not have got elected without that help.
We we have some Southern rock and rollers who were so proud of Jimmy Carter, one of their own, going to Washington. I think Carter was proud of the fact that you have the top rock and roll bands in the world from the South, not the Beatles from Liverpool or the Rolling Stones from England somewhere, the Grateful Dead from California. You've got, Southern rock and roll.
But the country players, they don't mind telling you.
Well, take your time. Don't live too fast. Troubles will come.
Those songs will be played on the radio, and somebody will be digging it when we're long gone.
All right, this is a verse I wrote that nobody's ever heard. Now when I die, don't put me in no graveyard. Lord, that's one place I don't want to be.